In a small village, a contingent of Roman soldiers arrived to deliver a message. Emperor Augustus of the Holy City of Rome had appointed Varus as the new governor of Germania. However, the villagers, who were Germani, one of the three major barbarian tribes in Europe according to the Romans, couldn't understand the Romans' language. From 12 BC to 6 BC, the Romans crossed the Rhine River, conquered the vast area from the Rhine to the Elbe, and established the Roman province of Germania. The Germans, unwilling to surrender, received a promise from the Romans: as long as the Germanic tribes submitted to Rome, the Romans would give these tribes a lot of gifts. But the prerequisite was that the leader's son must be sent to Rome as a hostage. At that time, the land in Germania was barren, the climate harsh, and the people often went hungry. With the supplies from Rome, the tribesmen no longer have to suffer from hunger. So, for the sake of their people, the Germanic tribes had no choice but to accept the Romans' conditions. The Roman squad leader announced that Rome would no longer exempt the Germanic tribes from taxes and demanded 20 cows or 2,500 kilograms of grain. Segimur was enraged by these conditions, stating that the tribe had nothing left to give. However, the disparity in power between the two sides forced Segimur to yield and lower his head. Seeing this, the squad leader gave the tribe 3 days to prepare the tribute and then left. The peace agreement and tax exemption had been secured by the chief's son being held as a hostage. Now, the Romans were going back on their word and demanding even more. They wanted to plunder the tribe completely. Segests, a nobleman, said that even if the Romans went back on their word, they had no other choice because the Romans were very powerful. Segests did not want war. He wanted Segimur to compromise with the Romans. So, the chief called for a tribal assembly, hoping to use an oath to compel the various tribes to fight together. The Romans always referred to them as Germani, but the tribes did not see themselves that way. They were the Chattan, Cheruscern, Marcern, and the tribes were not on good terms with each other. The assembly's final decision was not to fight, to maintain peace, which meant accepting a slow death. At that moment, a man noticed a figure on the hillside. The tribe had a rule that women were not allowed to watch the tribal assembly. Realizing she had been spotted, the woman turned to run but was caught. Tusnelda called the chief a coward and said that the men were not as brave as her brother Ansgar. However, Folkwin did not harm her. He said that women were not allowed to watch the assembly and that he would report this to the chief. Tusnelda was not afraid of his threat. The two actually knew each other. They grew up together. At that time they also had a partner, but he was eventually sent away. That child was the chief's son. When he grew up, he returned to this land wearing a red cloak. At this time he became a captain in the Roman army, and his current name was Arminius. Folkwin was forced to hand over his family's last sheep. They knew that even if they handed over all their livestock and grain, it would not satisfy the Romans. And indeed, the squad leader ordered his soldiers to search for more livestock. Seeing this, the chief was furious but helpless. The tribute was still not enough. The squad leader said that Governor Varus wanted the tribe to show loyalty to Rome by kissing the eagle flag. This was a humiliation for the Germani, an act that would destroy their pride. The villagers looked at the chief, who found it hard to accept. Just then, Segest stepped forward to kiss the flag, but Tusnelda rushed in and pushed the flag away. Tusnelda, Segest's daughter, refused to see her father submit to the Romans. As a result, the squad leader dragged Tusnelda by her hair and paraded her through the streets. Folkwin, enraged, was held back by 2 men. The others, fearful of the Romans, did nothing. Suddenly, Ansgar rushed out. Though Tusnelda was saved, Ansgar was injured. The chief, not wanting anyone to be harmed, had to submit to the Romans. In the Roman barracks, a Germanic tribal chieftain was arrested for refusing to pay a tax total and even insulted the Roman eagle flag. Arminius tried to intervene, stating that Germanic law did not allow the arbitrary execution of a person. However, Varus told him that the purpose was to make them understand that there was no Germanic law now. They only needed to know Roman law. Arminius then beheaded the chief. The nearby Germani wept in sorrow. Ansgar was critically injured. With the help of a healer, Ansgar survived, but the brain injury left him mentally impaired. The once lively boy now sat on the ground, lost in thought. Tusnelda wanted revenge for her brother and planned to steal the Romans' most important symbol. Folkwin decided to join her, and they recruited 2 more companions. The 4 planned how to infiltrate the heavily guarded Roman camp, steal the eagle flag, and escape safely. Tusnelda and Folkwin went ahead, while the other 2 approached from the rear. Folkwin led Tusnelda on a leash, telling the guards she was a slave. The guards, not wanting to offend a centurion, let them in. Inside, they headed straight for the tent where the eagle flag was kept. Tusnelda used her charm to distract the guard, and they quickly took down the guard. They successfully obtained the eagle flag. Meanwhile, the 2 men in charge of the reception in the back sneaked into the camp from the cesspit. Where they tackled a couple of Roman soldiers and brought a jar of wine along with them. Arminius was making his rounds of the barracks when he found a cloak and a trail of blood, and again found soldiers in pools of blood. The Romans realized the camp had been infiltrated. The 4 intruders had a plan. Earlier, Folkwin had said that if a wolf pack surrounded you, you must be more hungry and determined than the wolves. Amid the chaos, the 4 used the wine to set the tents on fire and walked out calmly. They disappeared into the fog as the Roman soldiers rushed to put out the fire. Arminius found a wolf tooth pendant and realized who had stolen the eagle flag. Varus was furious about the loss of the eagle flag. All the guards would be punished, and the god of war, Mars, would not forgive them. Metellus volunteered to retrieve the eagle flag with 100 Roman soldiers. Varus asked how he planned to find it among hundreds of tribes. Metellus planned to burn down each tribe until the flag was found. Varus rejected the idea, fearing it would incite a rebellion and unite the Germanic tribes against Rome. Arminius then offered to find the eagle flag in 1 day, but he needed to take Germanic mercenaries with him. Varus agreed. The man fighting was Talio, the commander of the Germanic mercenaries. Arminius gave an order for them to leave at dawn. Talio taunts the officer in front of him in Germanic. He, however, does not realize that Arminius understands their language as well, so Talio is punished. The next day, Arminius set out with the mercenaries. The eagle hunting squad returned to the village with the eagle flag. The villagers were overjoyed, chanting, "Long live Folkwin! Long live Tusnelda!" The chief took the eagle flag and let out a roar, releasing long-suppressed emotions. The chieftain sat down next to Folkwin and asked him if he knew what it meant to steal the Roman eagle. Folkwin said victory, but the chief told him it meant blood, lots of blood. Folkwin didn't think the Romans could find them, as there were hundreds of villages between them, but the chief still looked solemn. Meanwhile, Segestes secretly left the village. Arminius sent the mercenaries away and returned alone to his childhood home. He wanted to resolve the issue himself, not wanting to involve his family and villagers. The villagers saw the Romans coming and hid behind the walls. The chief, recognizing the young man on the horse, ordered the gates to be opened. The villagers were confused. But Arminius removed his helmet in front of the chief. A boy was chased by a lone wolf. Clutching a spear in fear, 2 figures rushed out, and the girl threw her spear, hitting the wolf. She saved her friend and knocked out 3 of the wolf's teeth. The 3 children made a vow to the god Woden, united in glory and defeat. Their enemies would be each other's enemies. Just as they finished their vow, Roman cavalry surrounded them. The leader asked if the boy was Ari. The boy sensed danger and ran. When he returned home and told his father about the Romans in the forest, he found a Roman soldier with his father. Chief Segemur had to hand over his 2 sons for peace between the tribes and Rome. The mother wailed in grief, and the boy thought he had done something wrong, vowing never to make the same mistake again. This was Arminius' last memory of his homeland. Arminius asked his father about his mother. His father didn't answer, and Arminius understood. His mother had died of a fever 6 years ago. Arminius gave his father a device, explaining it could tell time, and that Rome had things his father couldn't imagine. He promised that if the eagle flag was returned, he would ensure Varus wouldn't find out who stole it. Segemur called out Ari's name, but Ari was no more. He was now Arminius, a Roman cavalry commander. Segestes arrived at the Roman camp and told Varus he knew where the eagle flag was. He blamed Folkwin for the theft, not mentioning his daughter. He wanted to become the chief to better maintain relations with Rome. Varus didn't care who the chief was. He didn't need a puppet in Germania. Arminius, on a hill, remembered leaving the village. Folkwin and Tusnelda approached him. The three childhood friends were now adults. Arminius showed them the wolf tooth pendant and said they had stolen the eagle flag. The pendant belonged to Tusnelda. Arminius, who had lived in Rome, knew the power of the Roman army. If they didn't return the flag, everyone would die. Tusnelda thought he had changed, become a coward. Arminius believed Ansgar's condition was a result of their actions against the Romans. The vow of united in glory and defeat was broken. Back in the village, Arminius was surrounded by Barulf and his men. Barulf had seen Arminius behead a chief, who was his uncle. Seeing Arminius alone, Barulf saw his chance for revenge. In Germanic tribes, only the gods could decide a person's fate. Arminius had no such right. Barulf attacked with an axe, and Arminius defended with his sword. Arminius was unable to withstand the opponent's powerful attack. Folkwin and Tusnelda watched the fight. Barulf, a blacksmith, was much stronger. Arminius was hit and struggled to stand. The crowd cheered, finally seeing a Roman suffer. Arminius realized he couldn't win by strength alone. He began to fight more strategically. He gained the upper hand but didn't finish Barulf off. Barulf, driven by revenge, attacked again. Arminius was knocked down, helpless. Just then, Barulf was knocked out by Folkwin. Folkwin challenged anyone who wanted to take his friend. He was conflicted, not wanting to see his friend die, even if Arminius had forgotten their vow.